Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 is arguably the worst game out of the three between Marvel Superheroes 1, Lego Marvel Avengers, and Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. My first main issue with the game is the open world, honestly. First of all, the game takes up 20 gigabytes on Steam, so not only is it hard to load on a regular PC and pretty slow to play, it's so massive that not only does the world feel lived in, which is a good thing, but it feels too big. First of all, Manhattan got absolutely ruined because it's covered in snow, which makes it completely different from the other game's Manhattan portrayals. Also, Chronopolis is just bad in general. All the hub worlds that combined into Chronopolis would have been way better if they were all formed in separate worlds. At the end of the game, we see Chronopolis get restored and all the worlds get put back to their timelines. So why is it that in the open world we still play in Chronopolis? It would be way cooler to have the option to play in Chronopolis or have the option to play in all the separate hub worlds. But I digress. My main point is that the open world is very, very bad. All these worlds are pretty cool and they're nice to explore, but the map is just so expansive that to play the game, not only is there little to no chance of you ever 100%ing the game compared to Lego Marvel Superheroes, you just, there's so much going on. And the second problem I have with the game is the character roster. The character roster is subpar, I would say. And my main problem with the roster is not that the characters that are included are bad, it's the characters they didn't include. Because Marvel Superheroes 2 could have been a slam dunk for TT Games, but because of the fact that the rights for X-Men and Fantastic Four were owned by Fox and Disney didn't want to give any shine to them, they decided to remove the X-Men and Fantastic Four from the game, leaving us with the Inhumans to play catch up. And the Inhumans are really not that great, especially given the fact that their show bombed on Disney and is probably one of the most disliked Disney Marvel projects ever. So the fact that Disney decided to be so petty and just not include them because they didn't want any extra marketing to Fox, even though the following year they bought them out anyway, it would have been way awesomer to just have them in the game, even if they're not part of the story. Just to have the option to go around and unlock these characters, play their little side missions. Because the X Men were really the best part of Lego Marvel Superheroes 1. In fact, they were like the main characters of the game, dare I say. Between having Wolverine be one of the main players in the game, to having a whole X Men roster, Professor X, Gambit, all the X Men 97 crew except for Rogue and Jubilee, which are mutants that could have way easily been added to this game. It would have made way more sense to keep the roster from the first game and then add new mutants, Rogue, Nightcrawler, Forge, Jubilee, characters we've come to love and care about that people want to see in the game, and we didn't get them. And we still haven't gotten a new game to add to this series. First off, I find it very strange that given the massive amount of money that Avengers Endgame made and the slam dunk in the box office that was No Way Home, I'm shocked we didn't get an Infinity Saga game or like a multiverse game where you get to play as a bunch of characters from different realities. Like, what if and Across the Spider Verse literally featured the Lego game world and it was animated by a 14-year-old in that scene where Peter was talking to Miguel? It would have been really cool to play the background of that scene. Like, play a mini kit game, like a bonus game, one of those Deadpool missions where Peter's working at the Daily Bugle, doing his thing, getting his bags, getting his money up. And then all of a sudden, he sees the Spot come through in this portal, and he's got to run past JJ and get to his bathroom stall, I guess. And he calls at Miguel, and then see what happens after that, what steps he takes. That would be a really fun bonus mission to play. And because of the fact that we still haven't gotten any sets from Across the Spider Verse, even though they're supposed to come out next year, it would have been way cooler to see them in the game first and then get the sets. Because Lego really dragged their feet with making this set for Across the Spider Verse, given the fact that Into the Spider-Verse came out in 2018, and Across the Spider-Verse came out last year. So it has been 6 years since the Spider-Verse first showed promise, and it was a box office hit. It made Spider-Gwen popular, dare I say. So I find it really strange that she made it into only the third installment in the Lego game series, and there wasn't a fourth one. In fact, they could have made a game based exclusively on the Spider Verse. It doesn't even have to be from the other stories. You could just make your own story. Have Miles and Gwen and Peter and Anya and Jessica and Miguel and all these other spider people that you could have in this one big story. Or the X-Men. Have the X-Mansion. Wolverine could lead the game, or Rogue, or Gambit, or Cyclops, or Jean. There's so many characters and so many routes they could take with a fourth game in the assortment. Now, Lego Marvel Superheroes is totally and undisputably the best game in the series, hands down. Even though it came out over a decade ago, it is still peak Lego Marvel games. Between the roster, the open world, the level design, and the fact that Deadpool is in the game, which we never see again, was so awesome to me. Especially given the fact that they managed to make a PG Lego version of Deadpool. That in and of itself requires a whole round of applause, because to clean up Deadpool, the amount of spick and span they had to put in his mouth to get him to stop cursing for this Lego game must be immense. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the fact that Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 decided to replace Deadpool with Gwenpool and make the red bricks to pink bricks, even though Lego Marvel Avengers had red bricks, even though Deadpool wasn't in it, don't really know why they changed it. You know, Gwenpool was just the Deadpool copycat. She was really only there to fill the void that he created because, the X-Men weren't in the game, and no mutants were allowed to be either. So the point of Gwenpool being in there was just to replace Deadpool. One of the major success points of Lego Marvel Superheroes was not only the inclusion of the X-Men and Fantastic Four, but also the massive roster that they had in the game. Like 100 characters, not including the DLCs, which were pretty good in my opinion, other than the Asgard one. Those were great DLCs. So I don't know why they just didn't add the X-Men back in. And with TT Games making the slam dunk that was the Skywalker Saga, I'm pretty surprised that they haven't come out with a new Lego Marvel installment. And while we're on the topic of Lego Marvel installments, I feel like an Infinity Saga game would just be amazing. Think about it. You could have us play through a level from every movie. Let's say, like, a new level from Iron Man 3. Instead of the Malibu scene, maybe it's the one where Tony's suiting up. I know they already did that in Lego Marvel Avengers, but the one where he's fighting Aldrich Killian with Rhodey, and they get their suits, and there's that massive firefight. Or for Captain America the Winter Soldier, finally give him the stealth suit. Have that scene where Black Widow is confronting Pierce, have a bunch of cool scenes from a bunch of the movies. And because I know that there's plenty of projects, you could release bonus levels for the more popular parts of the MCU that came after Infinity War and Endgame, like a bonus level for No Way Home, a bonus level for WandaVision and Loki, and then release DLCs for the less popular projects, like The Eternals or Hawkeye, and then give us those characters. Could you imagine how cool it would be to just play in an open world with those characters and take the format that Lego Marvel Avengers gave you with having a bunch of different hub worlds that you could explore with all sorts of different levels, including Washington, D.C. of all places, and South Africa? Those were pretty cool places to explore. I especially enjoyed the basement in the Washington, D.C. level of Lego Marvel Avengers. So just do that again. Do what the Skywalker Saga did. Have a bunch of different planets and places to explore. But instead of planets, you can have different parts of the Earth. And for Guardians of the Galaxy, you can have like different planets that they went to. Different planets for What If. Different places and things you could explore in. Which is, I think, what Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 was going for. But because they smushed it all into one big world, where there's so many things going on between Kunlun and Chronopolis as a whole, the Kang Citadel, the Manhattans, the three Manhattans that are in this world, Nueva York, Manhattan Noir, I think it is, and Manhattan. First of all, I think Manhattan Noir is the best out of all of them. That filter was a pretty great touch, but it's still not great. They just they overcrowded the game in my opinion, and the story wasn't even great. There's no real explanation for why the X-Men don't show up and why the Guardians are different, which honestly, the Guardians having different appearances doesn't bother me as much as the populace might have you believe, but there was a lot that should have been changed and a lot of things that frankly were missteps in my opinion. But yeah, that's it.